Donald Trump says he's not joking about seeking a third term in office. Let's look at the left's perspective. Let's look at the right's perspective. Let's start with the basics. You can click to read all of this, but essentially Donald Trump said in an NBC interview, and I quote, "I'm not joking about considering ways to serve a third term in office." Now, this is in clear opposition to the 22nd Amendment, which limits presidents to no more than 2 terms. He didn't give any specifics on how he's going to circumvent this, but he did mention one scenario where J.D. Vance wins the presidency and passes it back to him, though he offered no real way that would work. Starting with the left's perspective, again, click if you want to read this all, but generally they're arguing that this is a blatant assault on the Constitution. They see this as an authoritarian move that echoes those actions of dictators in the past. They argue that the 22nd Amendment was enacted as a deliberate response to fears of executive overreach, and Trump is really pushing the boundary. They believe that circumventing this safeguard through quasi-legal ways really erodes at the checks and balances that are needed in our systems. They also point to Trump's past actions, like questioning election integrity, as evidence that this is a credible threat. So the right's perspective is a little nuanced here. Supporters of Trump argue his leadership has delivered tangible results that prove his unique ability to address America's challenges, and they believe that if the American people really desire his continued leadership, that there should be ways. However, not all on the right agree. A lot actually disagree with him. Many non-MAGA Republicans insist that term limits are a cornerstone of our government, and it's a safeguard against the kind of power consolidation that has fueled dictatorships in the past. They warn that altering them really risks legitimizing endless executive tenure, which is a slippery slope even for a leader that they might like. So I try to stay as non-biased as I can in the start of these videos, but here in the middle ground, I'm gonna lay down a little bit of my opinion. Trump's comments strike at the core of American constitutional principles. While the idea may appeal to avid supporters, the Constitution is very clear. The 22nd Amendment prohibits any president from serving more than 2 terms. Now, I hold firmly that any attempt to subvert or reinterpret this limit really undermines the rule of law and threatens democratic stability. Any attempt to undermine that safeguard, even as a joke, should be taken seriously and entirely rejected. Strong institutions protect democracy, and a healthy republic requires a peaceful transfer of power, regular elections, and firm term limits. While any citizen is free to advocate for constitutional changes, floating ways to sidestep a core tenet of U.S. democracy really crosses a dangerous line.